Mr. Freeman, how Addis welcomes you?
Addis is always a very lovely city. I've been here many times, and I always enjoy myself here.
I think it is your 6th or 7th.
Yeah, 6th or 7th time. My 3rd time this year. Been to Addis.
Now, what's your impression that in the last trip?
Well, Addis is. I came here because Addis and Ethiopia were under attack with psychological warfare to make people think that something terrible was going on in the city, and we had to be fearful. The military, the TPLF was about to take over. People had to get on planes and leave. I knew all of that was untrue before I got here. Okay. But I felt the best place for me to be during this time of attack on Ethiopia was for me personally to come to Addis and tell everyone that everything is normal.
Do you have some meetings with somebody here?
I've had meetings with a number of people in the media and some people in the government. And we've been having discussions about a strategy to counterattack the negative narrative that the media is pursuing against Ethiopia. But as when I came here, I immediately sent out a tweet that everything was calm. People were going to the coffee shops. The traffic jams were as usual, trying to travel by car. And that Addis was just being Addis. And there was nothing to worry about. And that the attacks on Addis were not true, they were psychological warfare.
So why some Western media and politicians propagate like that?
Well, you have to realize the media are not independent, objective organizations. They work with and for various political groups. And the media is essentially working with what I would call a geopolitical oligarchy who's trying to weaken Ethiopia and weaken this government, and the media works with them. They're not independent. They're not interested in truth.
What's the base of this prejudice about Ethiopia from this?
Well, don't forget, Ethiopia has been a leading country in the economic growth in East Africa. Now Ethiopia, with a new elected government, is moving in a very positive direction, and there's certain political forces in the world, in the West, that want to keep Ethiopia under their control and don't want to see Ethiopia pursue an independent path of development. And they are doing their best to undermine the aspirations of the Ethiopian people.
So what should be the counter?
Right now, what I'm doing is I'm putting forth the potential for the West, led by, unfortunately, the U.S. government, that they could be gearing up for regime change in Ethiopia, and which could, or destabilization of the country, or some kind of intervention. Using the crisis, the humanitarian crisis, they could mobilize political and military forces to intervene into Ethiopia, to, quote, save the Ethiopians from the government. I think what happened is that there's a lot of people in the government and in the Biden administration very close to the TPLF. I think that they thought that maybe they could control Prime Minister Abiy, and maybe they're realizing they can't control him, and that they would rather disrupt and cause chaos and war than lose control that they usually had with the previous government.
Let's come to Addis. Where was your best place in your last trip?
Well, when I first came here with my wife in 2014, and we got a tour of Entoto, and we enjoyed Entoto very much, and I had a lot of fun walking around. And on my own, in my many trips here, I visited several museums to learn the history of the country, and I enjoy learning history and how Ethiopia developed, what makes up its essential positive features, the people. So I've always had a good time when I come here.
Do you contact your embassy people here in Addis?
Do I contact the embassy, the U.S. embassy? No, I haven't. I have no reason to. Of course, you know, the embassy has said that I shouldn't come and that it was too dangerous, and they issued a level 4 alert, travel alert. But I'm an independent person, and if I have to go against my own government, then I do that when necessary. But I'm not concerned I'm not in any kind of fear that anything's going to happen.
Do you contact any independent foreigners here in Addis?
Independent foreigners?
Yes, foreign citizens.
No, I don't. I have basically spent a lot meeting some people I know, some friends, some people in the government, a lot of people in media, people I know from previous visits.
Do you travel in some parts of Addis in this last
Yes, well, when I was here in April.
No, just this trip, yeah.
No, this week, just from Monday through today, I've just been.
What were the last trips?
When I was here in April, I took 2 days off and went to Lalibela for 2 days. And I loved Lalibela. It was a great experience for my life, was to be in Lalibela. So I had a wonderful time there. And as I said, in 2014, my first visit here was with my wife. I was on my way back from Chad, where I was working with the Chadian Lake Chad Basin Commission. And we stopped off here for 4 days, and we took a 2-day tour of southern Ethiopia and went down to Hawassa and the Great Rift Valley.
When you meet people here in Addis, what do you understand their feelings, their psychological makeups, especially towards Westerns?
No, I mean, my view of Ethiopia and Africa is that most of the people like the United States because of the history of the United States.
Yeah.
And I love my country.
Yeah.
And even though the United States does some bad things, people still appreciate the United States. And I think when I'm in Addis, there's no hostility. There's no hostility to Americans. They want America to continue the alliance that we've had with Ethiopia for over 100 years. They would like to see that continue, and they don't understand why the United States is acting the way it is.
We have millions of diasporas in the United States and in Europe. They are voicing loud now.
Yes, they are.
But I think nobody is willing to understand or to listen to them.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I think it's very important that the diaspora speak out. And I think that if the diaspora organizes itself, it can be a very effective force. And the other factor, of course, is the 2022 congressional elections in the United States.
Yeah.
Because there could be very close elections between the Democrats and Republicans. And if the Ethiopians organize themselves, they could decide maybe who wins and who loses. I was told that the Ethiopians in Virginia played a very big role in helping elect a Republican for governor last November because they were upset with the Democrats because of the policy of the Democrat Party right now. Since I've been here, I've gone out several nights, gone to some restaurants, and went to one restaurant where they had a jazz band. People enjoying themselves, people drinking, people eating. And
as usual.
As usual, yes, as usual. And there's no one is fearful, no one is scared. Contrary to the U.S. State Department, this is not like Afghanistan, which they've been saying. Addis is not Kabul. People are not running to catch a plane to run out of here. In fact, on my plane over here from Washington, I would say it was about 85, 90% full.
Yeah, but the embassy is urging people time and again to leave Addis.
Yes, that's right.
Why?
Because we've discussed, they don't want this government. They're trying to create fear. Psychological warfare is a form of warfare. And they're trying to create fear and weaken the morale and the resolve of the government and the people of Ethiopia. And so they're using blatant disinformation to try to disorganize the Ethiopian people, the minds of the Ethiopian people.
Is that effective?
I don't know. It may be backfiring because maybe the Ethiopian people are more united because they see they're under attack. And Africans around the continent may be more united in support of Ethiopia because they see this attack going on.
What's the ultimate objective of these Westerns?
I think one possibility would be regime change, to find a way to weaken or remove the current government of Prime Minister Abiy and somehow try to create the conditions for the TPLF to come back into power here. That's one possibility.
Is that possible?
I just said, yeah. But I didn't say it's going to happen, but that's maybe what they intend to happen. And I wouldn't rule it out. If you don't fight back, you don't expose it. Look what happened 10 years ago in October. Gaddafi was overthrown. Regime change. By the same people in the Obama administration, by the very same people who are now in the Biden administration. And if you let ethnic groups challenge the sovereign nation state, as they're doing now, what TPLF is doing in Ethiopia, if that were to succeed, that would be very dangerous for the whole continent of Africa, because there's so many ethnic groups in each nation. So the American government, in siding with the TPLF, is playing a very dangerous game.
What's the base of their relation with the last regime?
They were very close to the TPLF. Many people in the government, Susan Rice, Gail Smith, and who are now in the Biden administration, were very, very close, worked very closely with the TPLF.
It's only the matter of closeness?
I don't know more than that. I mean, I don't know what their relation was, but they were extremely supportive of the government, of the TPLF-run government.
Okay, our Prime Minister is not in office recently. He is at the battlefield. What I understand from this?
I mean, he's leading his people to rally them and show leadership, and he's gone to the battlefield to coordinate the military attack of his troops and show the people of Ethiopia his commitment to keep the country as one nation and carry out his duties as the leader of the nation and the armed forces.
Do you understand the people's feedback about his presence at the battlefield?
I gather many people are very positive about it, and many Ethiopians find it inspiring.
So lastly, what you suggest to smooth this relation with the Westerners or to tackle this propaganda?
Well, I don't think you're going to smooth the relationship. That's not going to happen. What I suggest is, as a strategy, is that the Ethiopian government has to respond and fight back to the false narrative that is coming out of the media and coming out of the government. When there's attacks or inaccuracies or deliberate disinformation in the media, which is every day I read articles, the government should be responding and should say, this is not true, this is not true, this is not true. And therefore, you have to fight back psychological warfare by responding, by what I call counterpunching. If someone hits you, you got to hit back. And I think that is good. People should be doing that in Ethiopia. And we should be exposing the danger to Ethiopia and the danger to all of Africa if ethnic groups are allowed on their own to say we no longer accept the government and declare that they're going to attempt to overthrow the government. If that's allowed to occur in Ethiopia, which unfortunately the West is supporting, then you can imagine what could go on in Nigeria, in Kenya, and other countries where there are significant ethnic problems as well. I mean, you could unleash chaos and war in large sections of Africa if you start supporting the rights of one ethnic group to challenge the government. From my view, there is a conception of an Ethiopian citizen, and the Ethiopian citizen is a higher conception than an ethnic group. There's a nation state of Ethiopia, and there's citizens of that nation state. And therefore, that's where the allegiance of Ethiopians is to their nation. We don't eliminate or disparage ethnic groups, but an ethnic identity is not equivalent to an Ethiopian identity.
Some people explain the war as it's a war against Africa, not only Ethiopia.
That is, in a certain sense, it is a war against Africa.
Do you agree with that?
In a sense, that's true, because they're stoking flames of ethnicity. They're challenging a country that has been leading in economic development for the last 10 years, that has made tremendous progress in infrastructure, but building the railroad back in 2016, the train from Addis to Djibouti, I was here for that, building the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam to bring over 6,000 megawatts of electricity for development, the light manufacturing industries that are building up in the south in Hawassa. These are all very positive. This is a positive paradigm for Africa. And Africans, leaders and Africans and African Americans back in my country, they see the attacks in Ethiopia as an attack on Africa because Ethiopia is one of the leading countries. I mean, it was Haile Selassie, the Emperor of Ethiopia, and Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana that established the OAU, Office of African Unity, Organization of African Unity, in 1963. And the office of the OAU sits in Addis. And therefore there's a long history of Ethiopia's leadership in fighting colonialism and fighting for economic development that people in Africa recognize.
Some people say this war is uniting not only Ethiopian people, but Africa at large and the entire bloc. Do you agree with that?
I think to some degree that's true. I think the people I talk to in other African nations, they are very upset what's going on. Now, maybe it'd be good if more people spoke out, more government leaders, more organizations besides just the Ethiopian diaspora. But yeah, I think in a sense that this attack on Ethiopia is actually is causing a problem because it's unifying not only Ethiopians, but it's unifying Africans. So that's something that can be used to your advantage.